Gradient map can transform your images. To create a gradient map on this image, click here and then Gradient Map. Double-click here to open its properties. This region represents brightness or tone from black to white like so. And thus for the ease of understanding, I've used a similar tonal range as example. I'm going to click here. Right now the black of this image is mapped to black here. I want to change it to red. I'll go and double-click here and then select red. We can see that the white of this image is mapped to white here. I want to map the whites to blue. So I'll double-click here and then select blue. And as a result, you can see that these midtones got automatically mapped to a combination of red and blue. Now let's work with few of the tones from this image. This has got a brightness of 0%, this 25%, this 50%, this 75%, and this 100%. Let's open the gradient map. And this time as well, I want to map the blacks of this image to red. So we click here and select the color from here. Let's map the whites to blue like before. For that, we select this color stop and change the color from here. And there you have it. The blacks are red, the whites are blue, and every other tone in between got mapped to a mixture of red and blue. You can further control the color mappings of these tones. This tone has a brightness of 50%. So we click here in the middle portion. Here location corresponds to brightness, so I'll make it perfect and type 50, and then maybe I'll change the color to yellow. So these three tones are now rigidly mapped to three specific colors. While this tone got mapped to a mix of red and yellow, and this got mapped to a mix of yellow and blue. Let's rigidly map them as well. This tone has got a brightness of 25%, so I'll click somewhere here in the middle. The location is perfect 25. Now let's change the color to magenta. This tone is 75% bright, so we go here and click in the middle. I couldn't place it properly, so let's change it here to 75. Now let's change the color to green. So all these tones are now hard mapped to these colors. I'm using the old gradient image again. Let's see how it looks when we put this gradient map on it. So I'll go here and turn it on. And there you go. Now Photoshop uses various methods to create these color gradients. Right now we are using the classic method. Let's try Perceptual. Then we have got linear, classic. This is smooth. And we have got one last method called stripes. Beware because it's gonna look a bit weird. It tends to miss to map the white tones and sometimes the bright tones. So expect to see only these four colors. And as you can see that it doesn't map the tones in gradient but in blocks, the mapping can shift a bit. For it to map the whites and the brights better, we'll need an image which has more whites or more contrast. So instead of this gradient, we will use this one which has more whites and contrast. Let's bring in the same gradient map. Choose the stripes method. Now at least we are seeing all the 5 color maps that we had created. The gradient map acts more accurately in the classic mode. Let's apply gradient map on this image. You can see that this gradient map marks black as black and white as white. So technically there should be no change in this image as I turn it on. So let's do that and see what happens. And there's a slight change, right? Let's go to method and select classic. I said the classic method will be identical to the original image, right? So let's turn it off to check that. But seems like it's still not the same. That's because we just need to do one extra step. We go here and then change smoothness to 0. Now let's go here and toggle on and off to see if they're the same. And yes, they are. We can also select the noise type from here. This maps the tones or the brightness of an image with noise like so. You can control how rough it's gonna be. Tweak all of these options. Randomize the noise as you please. Restrict colors from being oversaturated. Or make some of the noises transparent or semi-transparent. The Dither option smoothens banding, and it does so by adding granular noise. It works on both noise and solid type. For example, we have the solid type with stripes method. To reduce this banding, we can apply Dither here. The reverse option reverses the tonal mapping. We can also apply gradient map on colored images. I've marked the brightness values of these tones with the color sampler tool. And here I've replaced them with colors with the exact same brightness. First, I'm going to work with the grayscale image. I'm going to use this old gradient map where all these colors mark the following brightness values. Let's apply it. And the result is as expected. Now all these colors have the same brightness or tonal values. So technically we should get the same result, right? So let's go and turn on the gradient map. And the effect is not quite the same as before. That's because Photoshop reads the tonal values of a colored image differently. It will first convert this colored image to grayscale mode, and you can see that its tones are quite different from the ones we had before. This has the following brightness values. I'm going to show you the colored image now, and then let's tweak the brightness values over here. Let's make it 3. Make this one 12. This is 26. This is going to be 65. And this is 97. Now let's turn on the gradient map. And there you go. Now let's take some examples. I want to make these black tones dark bluish. So let's double click here and do that. And want to mark the white tones with yellow. And maybe change the gradient map method to smooth. So here's the before and here's the after. For this image, I want the black tones to be purplish and the white tones a bit cyanish. Here's the before and here's the after. In this image, let's mark the blacks with dark blue and the whites with red. I want the red to be more vibrant in the midtone, so I'll push the color stop here. And now let's change the gradient map method to stripes. So here's the before and here's the after. Let's apply gradient map on this colored image. Toggle it on here. I'll make the black tones dark bluish. I want this blue a little bit in the midtones as well, so I'll move this color stop. I want to mark the whites with something yellow. Move it to the left so the midtones also get a little bit of yellow. I want to mark these less darker tones with some purple maybe. That would be somewhere over here. Let's go to the Layers panel. Now I'll reduce the strength of this effect by lowering opacity. So here's your before and here's your after. This time let's apply a noise type gradient map. Let's change the type here. Maybe use the LAB color model and try some randomize. I like this one, so I'll stick to this. I'll go to the Layers panel and then change the blend mode of the gradient map adjustment layer to overlay. So here's your before and here's your after.